just to recap kind of what this is plotting here. So right here we've got, this is the pool size, right? So this is where we started. So there was like $21,250,000, what have you, or M points at start. And then this is kind of where we're at now. So we're just above 20,800,000 or 20,800,000,000, whatever the, however you want to break it down. I like to look at it in millions of dollars. So like 20,800,000, somewhere above that, right? So this pool size, because of what I described before about how people can only exit the pool by claiming all the rewards and nobody can enter it. The pool size can only go either sideways or down, right? It can never go up because nobody else can enter the pool. So this is something we expected, right? We expected it to come down. The one thing I did not expect, and I think a lot of people would agree, is how like diamond-handed all these WAATSA holders would be. Because to date, we started at 22,063 of these WAATSAs. And now there is 21,000. What's the number? Let's call it 21,700. Okay. So that is less than a 2% has been burned. So like 1.6, 1.7% of all the WAATSAs have been burned after the 6 months. I was expecting a lot more than that, honestly. I think a lot of people were expecting a lot more than that. So the amount the pool size has gone down is not that extreme. Go ahead.
But anyone who's burned so far has lost money on the deal. So
sure.
there's high disincentive to burn them at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah, so far.
But until recently, right? Didn't we get into principle recently?
So 2% is just like that's just the people who don't know what they're doing or are testing the system. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, this launched in a bear market and then the market went down even more, like between that point launch date and now. Right. So you have to assume that a certain amount of people are going to panic, burn their stuff and get whatever they can out, or maybe they got bills to pay or whatever. I just assume more would have gotten burnt is all I'm saying. I would assume more would have got burnt. So as we can see here, less than 2% is not a whole lot. Total WAATSAs left, what I just described right over here, right? That this can only go either sideways or down into the right, which is what we're expecting. It's just not decreasing at the rate that I was expecting. The most interesting chart for me is the average NFT size. So this is the only dynamic chart that I really have. And in this chart, this is basically the story it's telling is what are the WAATSAs with the large amounts in them, what are they doing compared to the smaller WAATSAs? And from the launch date, as we see the average NFT size go up, what's really happening is all those small NFTs are getting burnt, right? So if you've got a bunch of small NFTs get burnt, then the average size is going to be going up. And then what happens is when this date comes around, right, which I think this was the start of the auctions, what happens when the average NFT size goes down? That's probably because a very large WAATSA or a string of them all burnt at the same time, right? So now you've got more smaller ones than larger ones, so the average NFT size goes down. And now it's playing this game where it kind of found a bottom here. Then we see a bounce where the big NFTs go away, or the big NFTs stop getting burnt, and it's just the small ones. And then we have, just the other day, we had a 50,000 M point, which is like 50 B points, I believe, got burnt. And so we see that dramatically made an effect on the average NFT size in that pool. Does that kind of make sense? I know I drew a lot of weird things.
Yeah, it's curious why those. It's curious why they had those sell-offs of those big ones.
Yeah, recently I've been seeing a few big ones. Again, been watching Dev Huey's tweets and updates on it. A few big ones, and then so what is the overall story? Just to summarize it, GIF here. The average size, that's something that's oscillating recently, and it's telling us what exactly.
So what it's telling is what the sentiment is between the small WAATSA holders and the larger WAATSA holders. So If you see some spikes down, you can see that some larger holders are getting out. If you see it consistently rise up and to the right, you can see that it's kind of normal market dynamics that, people are willing to burn the small ones, but not any large ones. So over time, you'll see the average NFT size go up. I think the biggest picture that I was trying to get to was that I think this is still a blip of the overall charts that we're going to see from this in a year. Like, I don't think that we've seen a lot of dramatic moves, even though it feels like it because it's the only moves we have to reference to. Because the pool size is still so large and because there's still so many WAATSAs left, there's still a whole lot of chart to generate from this. And so we'll probably start to see some better or at least more clear narratives as time goes on and we can chart this stuff.
Gotcha. Synergy with a comment. Keep in mind, many of the entities were minted with Hex Maxi, which all gone down the bear. That were minted with 0 slippage as well. Oh. Interesting point.
Good point.
So technical sense, they are up.
Yeah, and on the slippage side of things, it's important to recognize that if somebody had a very large WAATSA NFT that they wanted to burn and get their principal back, that's all dependent that there's enough liquidity in the ICOSA pairs in order to meet that said sell order, right? So if somebody's got a bunch of large WAATSA NFTs and they're thinking about taking some profits right now, maybe it's not the best time because they're going to eat a lot of slippage on the way down. Like, they got in with 0% slippage, but getting out might be a different story.
Gotcha. A question from You Must Surf. Why sell when the yield just gets better? Let's take that one.
Let's see. Well, this product was kind of it was kind of created as a game of chicken, right? So why do people chicken out in a game of chicken, right? They just get fearful. Right, it's just driven by fear, really, or they have some sort of deep necessity that dictates that they need to withdraw some money from crypto, right? But no, I mean, if you could, the whole game of chicken is whoever lasts the longest is gonna win.
Well, the saying, when others are fearful, be greedy. You can't really be greedy with WAATSAs other than the fact of not selling yours, because you can't buy any more unless you want to pay a much bigger price on OpenSea. Which, hey, maybe you do. Maybe you think you're going to hold on to them for 10 years and they'll meet that expectation and beyond. But that's the funny thing about WAATSAs, you can't really buy anymore. There's not like this market other than the third party market that you can get them from, because they were a limited edition. And I think that's so being where you can't just an asset where you can't buy anymore off the primary market. Does that help with the appreciation? Like, how does that factor into the fundamentals for WAATSAs?
I mean, I think short term, sure. But, if you go and if you're looking at OpenSea and you see, let's say you see a 30 M point selling for $90, right? You're like, all right, this guy's probably getting, or this dude's probably getting a 3x on their investment. And so you're thinking, man, I don't know if that's a good deal or not. Well, if Hex does a 3x in our regular market, what does that do to the value of the ICOSA that's wrapped into there? That's the question, right? And that is, if you look at how the Hex price affects the price of a B share, and you look at how the B share and the price of ICOSA have been interacting so far, you could quickly come to the realization that maybe a 3x or a 3x upcharge isn't that bad of a deal in the grand scheme of things when the market decides to turn.